Welcome to Living the Off-Grid Dream, where we talk about how to get land, start a homestead, a retreat, regenerative farm, or community, and live a life of health and freedom, even if you're starting with nothing like we did. We cover all this and how to be financially free while doing it, and the failures and lessons we have learned along the way. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
So my name's Cole Richardson. I live in Richmond, Virginia. Like I said, I've got couple different irons in the fire right now, but I'm just trying to figure out what just my final path is. But my main business right now is called Homestead Scout. So basically what I'm doing is keeping an inventory of properties. Like I'll just do some direct to seller marketing and find properties that would kind of fit a criteria for someone who wants to go off grid, live off the land. They want a family farm. Maybe they live in town and they're looking for, say, 10 or 20 acres an hour outside of it, but they still want to, just that type of stuff. So like what I like to call it is rural recreational land. So that's the business that I've really been growing lately. Before that, like I said, I have a native and edible landscaping company, and I got to the point where I was just like, I need to move out of the suburbs pretty much. So like, if I'll just do a quick backstory just to kind of piece it, so I'm not like keep backtracking. So basically, right now I'm 22. I graduated high school. I went to trade school for HVAC, and I did that for like a year and a half, 2 years in high school. Worked for an appliance repair company till like 11 p.m. every night, like on the school nights. Wake up, try to cram in all my homework. Like, damn, all right, cool. Like this is going to be my life. I'm going to be working on HVAC units. I'm going to get really good at it. Like I'm going to be a tradesman, et cetera, et cetera. After I graduated, I worked for this big company for about a year and a half. And during that time, like when I was actually working there, I felt like this was going to be my forever. It wasn't like, oh, this is the phase of life. It was like, wow, this is going to be me for the next 40 years. And the guys I was working with, that I was actually really depressing. I liked the trades. I liked working with my hands and stuff like that, but just whatever like little group that I was in with these guys that were somehow everybody's uncle and related and cousin. It was like a weird cliquey environment. So that made me really frustrated, to say the least. Not just because, but just everything. It was just like, damn, I need to get out of here. So what that did is push me to start my own business. I left that. I was just so tired of working for somebody just because it was managed so poorly. And I'm not like a pro managed people guy. I just know like a 3-year-old could tell that that was just like a horrible place if you're like trying to do anything good with your life. It would be 10 a.m., like 3 packs of cigarettes. The guy next to me, we're sharing the truck, 7 hours unpaid drive time. He's on his 3rd pack. He's second Mountain Dew. And then he's going to go, eat a pot of spaghetti. Like, I don't know. It was just like such a weird thing. It was just not fun. Everyone was trying to bring each other down like crabs in a barrel. And that's when I heard about real estate. And so for a while, I started learning on the side. I went to all the local RIA meetups, and I got into wholesaling houses. And I was learning that. And this is when I didn't even know like what a purchase agreement was. Like I knew zero. I didn't even, if someone says I have a 2,000 square foot house, my mind, I didn't even know what that looked like. Like I knew absolutely nothing about real estate. So from there, I decided to go out and, like I said, the local RIA meetups, and there was like a wholesaling group, and I got into that, and it ended up being really hard. There was a lot of gurus online that were promoting wholesaling, which is fine, but they were getting all these people internationally. They were like, hey, market in Richmond, Virginia, find me deals. So then we had, like 1,000 people that were all hitting the same person. I would talk to someone who was like a tax delinquent or pre-foreclosure, and they're like, you're the 13th person to call me today, F you. It was super intense. So
oh wow, I wouldn't have expected that. That's crazy.
Yeah, like I did that. I every type of marketing you could think of, I was doing Facebook ads. I would just and I wanted to feel good about it because I didn't own any houses. I was wholesaling them, meaning that I would just get the property under contract and then assign that to someone who has like the money or the construction crews. I would just put the deal together and then just get it ready for somebody who wants to take it from me and then continue the process. So I would do the marketing, the sales, just kind of like set the golf ball on the tee, ready for someone to swing. And so I did that, and I was doing Facebook ads. I was door knocking thousands of doors. And eventually I was like, hey, this isn't working. Like, this is hard. I'm spending all my money that I saved up from this horrible company. So it's even more so like, yeah, because I worked so hard for that at like, $14 an hour hitting my life. And I was like, I have to make this work. So after a while I was door knocking, I was like, hey, like, do you want to sell your house? No, I don't want to sell my house. All right, well, I see you got all these leaves on the ground. So like, can I help you with that? Like, how about I do some landscaping for you? And that's how I like doubled down on my landscaping company. Just literally from door knocking, doing leaf cleanups, all of a sudden I built up a clientele of like 100 people or so doing leaves. They referred me to their friends. I just grew that. So I've been doing that since 2019. So I was doing wholesaling houses and landscaping at the same time, trying to balance those.
I love
Eventually,
that, dude. I think that's so awesome. When I heard that, I was like, no way. Like that is great. Just like the ultimate downsell, just being able to have the landscaping company in the background.
yeah, people didn't even know because I come up wearing like jeans and a collared shirt, and I was driving a Ford Taurus, and people were like, you want to do my leaves? Like, do you need a rake? Like, I was like, no, no, like I do this, and they're like,
Do you need a
oh.
rake?
That's what a guy asked me. He's still one of my clients, and he's just like, "Do you need a rake?" But like, I started that business with a Ford Taurus and like a push mower, and that was like when I was doing it like
Isn't
full
a
time.
Ford Taurus a car?
Yeah, I took the back seats out.
Oh my. Oh, dude, that is so epic. I love that.
Yeah, so it was just like this whole kind of hodgepodge of just trying to get my shit together. Like all throughout like high school and stuff, I was selling candy. I would ride my bike or get my dad to take me to the dollar store, and I would buy everything for like a dollar 50, and then sell it all for two or three. So I had a second backpack that I would take to school, and I would just sell everything in like second and third period, like candy bars. Like we had this like diet Powerade machine, and no one liked it. So I sat next to that machine at the lunch table, and I would sell like the full sugar Gatorade. So I would just like do stuff like that, but it was never like a full time like, oh, I'm gonna, like run a big company or like manage people. It was just kind of like little side stuff
Dude,
that I would do.
this all just brings me back because I did exactly the same stuff, man. In high school, I had a locker full of all this stuff with like shelves stacked, and people come by and I'd be slinging stuff out of my locker. And then I started a landscaping company as well in high school.
Oh
And we
shoot.
had like, we managed to scrape together enough cash to buy this like crappy old Toyota truck. Thing was like tiny, and we drive this beater around and like get the jobs done. It was awesome.
Yeah, dude. There's like something to be said about just working with your hands, and especially like that's the type of business where you can learn as you go, and you just start with something. And if you don't know how to do it, you can be like, "Hey, this is my first time doing it, but like let's do this." But what I actually would do is go in with like some of my buddies' companies, like people I would meet along the way, and I always had the idea over like collaboration over competition. So if I don't know how to do a patio, but someone was like, "Hey, do you do walkways?" I'm like, "My walkway guy does," and then we would end up doing the job together, and I would learn how to do it as like so for example, if it's like a $10,000 job, I would just kind of like fit in my like daily rate into that, and then he would just pretty much manage the job, and we would split it all up at the end. So that's how I learned how to do a bunch of stuff that I wasn't familiar with without taking on the risk of like screwing up someone's entire backyard because I don't know how to run an excavator or something like that.
Oh, dude,
But
that's such a great example of partnership and just mindset.
it worked for me. I was scared to do it myself, and the other guys, like I would go out to these meetups, and they were like, "Hey, just like commit first, figure it out later. Like you don't even need to like learn how to do anything." And I was like, "See, that's a good mindset, but then you have to like know how to do stuff or bring people in who do." So that was just my way of bringing people in. So like I'm not gonna try to like penny pinch and take 100% of the job from me, because there was this guy, I think it was someone in real estate back in the day, said that I'd rather have half of a watermelon than a whole grape.
I always hear like I'd rather have, 10% of something than 100% of nothing. But I like the watermelon and the grape. I like that analogy instead.
Heck yeah, brother. Yeah, it's like, yeah, pretty straightforward. I can only do so much by myself, and that's why I'm out here to learn and meet people. That's like why I came out to like right now I'm in San Diego meeting some other land investors that I've been working with for the past year. We've been doing deals, and then the guys who have been, funding them are out here. And it's just going to be good to, shake their hands and just see, kind of put a face to a Zoom call, voice type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So how did you make the switch? Like, how did you start acquiring rural land?
Yeah, so I was, like I said, I was trying with houses, so I knew what the general real estate marketing business was like. And I was like, this is really hard. And my truck broke down. So I was like, I'm not going to put money into something that's not making me any money. So I stopped wholesaling, went full time into landscaping for the past 3 years. That's all I was doing. Last year, I was sitting there and I was like, this isn't going to get me where I want to be, because I want, the hot topic right now is like homesteading online and all that good stuff, and all the people that make it look like really easy and it's like all sexy on Instagram. But like, I'm like, I like that. Like, I've been a woodland dude my whole life. Like, but in the suburbs. Like we would always go out, like as a kid, just being a kid. So, anyways, I like being outside. I like going hiking, like swimming in the springs. I drink spring water that I carry up the hill every week. 30-gallon containers,
Oh,
and
that's so fun. Yeah, we use when I was living in the city, we do the same thing. Drive like 30 minutes to the nearest spring and truck it all out of there.
yeah, you use it's 450 chemicals in the tap water. People are like, "Do you trust that spring? Is that safe?" And I'm like, "You're drinking from your sink. Do you trust that? Is it safe?" And they're just no, but it comes from the sink. I'm like, well, this comes from the earth, like 2,000, like thousands of feet down, filtered through rock and like minerals. Like this stuff's amazing. Like, yeah, don't get one next to a farm where they're putting a bunch of nitrates in it. But yeah, so generally they're pretty good. But I kind of got off topic there. I was trying to do with houses. I said, screw it. Let me focus on landscaping, which is a thing that's actually making me money. And then I was like, all right, do I want to grow a landscape construction company? Do I want to get into hardscaping? Like, do I want to go out to California and do $300,000 projects? And I found out, no, that's not what I want to do. That's not going to create my ideal life. And I was like, oh, all these people making money online. Like, I just need to just like get a shovel, get some guys, and we'll get something done. And I was like, well, I want to go out to the middle of nowhere. So I would go door knocking in the middle of nowhere. As you can imagine, that's probably pretty sketchy out in like rural West Virginia, where everyone's got the no trespassing signs and the rifle rack on their truck. But pretty much I would just go out to these places and just be like, hey, what do you guys do for work? What do you guys do for work? And they're like, oh, we work for the natural gas company, we work for the oil company, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, all right, well, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for the kind of things that I want to do. Like no one's hiring landscapers. So I actually was looking for a real estate agent to call when I was looking for some land in West Virginia. And I wanted to find someone who looked kind of like younger, that was my age, who I could like just be like, yo, like give me the scoop. Like, what's it like? How are you making a living out here? Just real estate. Like, how can I get out here and live in this area where there's not a whole lot of like local jobs? It's just the agriculture and things like that. And I was like, I don't want to make it confusing. So basically, right before that, I was talking to my dad. I was like, I need to figure out something new. I want to do some sort of business where I can like bring people outside, maybe like adventure touring. I just need something different. I need change. I'm sitting there like losing my mind. I'm like, I need to do something different. I can't be stuck like doing people's mulch beds my whole entire life, which is fine if that's where you want to stay. Like if you like that suburban lifestyle or you like the city lifestyle, that's totally cool. It's way better than anything else I've ever done. Sometimes I can work shirtless and get a tan. You're sweaty, you feel good. The clients love your work. But I was like, I want to be in the middle of nowhere. I want to have a dairy cow with fresh milk in the morning. I want to be eating some meat from either my farm or my neighbor's farm. I want to have all sorts of medicinal herbs and wildflowers all over the property. I want spring water. I want to build a cabin. I don't care if I have to live in a pull behind trailer at first, but I just want to be out in the middle of nowhere, just like living a more simple life where I can walk barefoot and just be happy. I was like, how the heck can I do that? And I'm like, all right, well, I run a business. I know working for a big corporation probably isn't going to be that, because I'm not going to be happy doing spreadsheets for, Capital One Bank and be a remote worker. It's like, what can I do? I need to start something. And then all of a sudden I get this ad on Instagram for this guy out in California. And he's just like, hey, I run a land investing business. Like, is it a good business? And like, well, there's some downsides, but there's some good stuff. And this is what it's like. I'm like, damn, that's cool. Like, that's pretty sweet. And I saw it and I was like, all right, it's probably just another like one of the gurus online, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, all right. And then I go online. So back to the other part of the story, I was just thinking, processing, what can I do? What can I do? Am I going to have just like show people the woods, be like, hey, this is like, no, I didn't have a vision for it, but I just wanted to do something outside. So as I'm looking for land, calling real estate agents, like, hey, what do your clients do for work? I see the same guy from the video that I was just like kind of inspired by, but I forgot about. I'm like, wait a second. You're selling this property. You were just talking about your land business. I'm looking for land in the same county that you have. So I called him. I'm like, dude, like, what's going on? Like, I see you got this property for sale. Like, I just saw you earlier today where I saw you and I had this whole like epiphany, like I need to do something different. And then I saw your video and then I was like, I kind of pushed it off. And then I was like, let me talk to people and ask them what their clients do. And it ended up being you. So we got talking on Instagram. He's like, hey, like, yeah, I do this business, we're into land investing. And basically what that is we just find off-market deals and we either improve them or just like find it in a good area or market it really well and we sell it for a profit. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds kind of like where I was wholesaling real estate. He's like, yeah, it's similar, except we're not assigning the contracts. We're actually taking the land down and like owning it and then reselling it, just so we have like more control over the deal instead of having to do the whole buyer seller thing, and the buyer's like, oh, how much you make? And the seller's like, what do you mean you're gonna assign it? Like all that stuff. This just like simplifies it to the point where we can just like find a good deal, buy it. Of course, you run the numbers, you look at the data, make sure it's gonna, resell if that's what you want to do. And so yeah, that's what I've been doing since last August is when I started. I did my first marketing campaign in November, and then after that, I've got a few deals gone through. I bought an 80-acre subdivision in Texas. Well, excuse me, 80 acres in Texas, turned it into a subdivision, not with houses or roads or fire hydrants, but just it has so much road frontage that can split it up and then resell it into 10 to 30 acre lots for people who want to go live off the land and homestead, or maybe they just want a hunting property. I flipped some in Tennessee. I did 2 in West Virginia. One of them I sold them to the neighbor, and he ended up his family just buys everything for sale in the area because like the rivers and the springs and like the mountains are named after their family. They've been there since like 1800s or whatever. So yeah, it's like that kind of stuff's cool. But yeah, I know I'm getting off topic. I'll let you kind of ask me some questions and direct it and everything.
So in the last year, you bought 4 properties.
Man, it's been more than that. No, so I'm just getting started, but let's see, the one in Texas ended up being like 7 lots that I resold, and that was really good. So that was like 7 deals, just kind of like in one bigger deal. So that was like 7 checks coming in, 7 transactions dealing with people, 7 buyers, all that, and then another 5 of them in Tennessee. 2 of those are sold, and then 2 of the ones in Tennessee are sold, and then I did 2 in West Virginia. So far, Texas, Tennessee, West Virginia, and I'm doing some stuff out in Washington State. Tried to do some in Virginia, but that wasn't working too well. So if I were to count the amount of deals, it'd be like 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, good bit.
Wow, that's pretty epic, man. So how did you get the money or like connect with an investor or whatnot to get the first one and really get rolling with it?
So once I kind of got into all this, I got, I don't know about creative, but I was like, I don't want to wholesale. Like, how does this business model work? And what most people are doing are calling these deal funders. So they specifically work on real estate deals. Some of them even work specifically in land deals. So what they're doing is making sure that like if you're going to flip a lot, like you're not going to live there, but they want to make sure that there's some equity in the deal. So as like, hey, worst case scenario, if the deal doesn't sell, it's still something good to hold on to and, wait till things get good, or maybe they'll get creative and do something else with it. So that's how it is. Basically, when I get a property, I will call my deal funder. I've got a handful of guys that I'll call, and we'll confirm pricing, and they'll be like, yeah, cool. Like they'll be my second set of eyes. Since I'm relatively new in the business, I'm not going to go out and buy something without asking anyone else about it, just relying on my own numbers. I'm gonna be like, hey, Nick, what do you think of this? Like, no, that's a good deal. We can go in on that. So what I'll do is I'll get the property under contract in my company, and then, at closing, we'll actually transfer it to theirs, and they'll wire the money in, and then we'll have like a joint venture between the 2 of us saying that, hey, we're partners, and based on how quick this sells, that's how much profit we're going to split up pretty much. So we'll break bread at the very end once it resells. So the quicker it sells, the more I keep. The longer it takes, the more they would keep, because, they want their money to keep turning over faster.
Yeah,
that's like a conventional deal funder person. Once I start working on like these bigger projects with the 80 acres, we did that one like very, very unconventionally. Like the real estate agents, the attorneys, they were like, we had to be very kind of like careful not to just like say too much because it confuses them, and like confused mind says no. And it was just people who do something a certain way their whole entire life. That's like like seller financing, for example. Real estate agents that live in the suburbs have never heard of seller financing. They're like, no, that's illegal. You can't do that. You're like, what? That's not illegal. Like, I'm just making monthly payments. But in their little bubble, they're like, you can't do that. But then you go to land, and there's like people doing it all the time. Like 30% of them are probably seller financing. So on that one big one in Texas, we actually kind of partnered up with the owner. Long story short, it was like, hey, we can pay you this much for your land. He's like, hey, I want more. And we're like, hey, we can't do that because we have to bring in like money people. And, the money people are saying we need to get it at this price so that it just makes sense as an investment. And he's like, well, how much you paying him? And I tell him it's going to be about this much. And he said, well, how about you pay me that money, right? You just pay me that much extra and I'll hold the properties. And then you guys put the deal together. And then we can subdivide each lot as we go. So we would market it, and we had like a, everything is just paperwork. It's all the invisible stuff we talk about, where it's just like not really real. It shouldn't be that complicated to do this stuff, but since we live in like this system in society, oh, we got to get the permission to market it and do this clause and that clause and et cetera, et cetera. So what we did is we marketed it as it was like already split up. And then when someone would call in, how many acres do you want? Oh, I want 20 acres. All right. Well, we'd subdivide it, do the legal process, go through all the red tape, deal with the zoning department and the planning people and figure out what exactly we need to do. And then we would just split that one off and then sell it to that person. So up until we sold it off, the original owner still owned it, but we were just kind of like working on his behalf to put all this together because he didn't want to deal with it. And we took all the load off of his back because, I mean, this stuff is like, even in where we're working, some states are easier than others, but generally speaking, it's still like a lot of just headaches and confusion that we went through. I think 4 or 5, I think our 5th real estate attorney worked. The other 4 up front, it was like we were trying to get the first lot sold and it wasn't working because they were like, hey, like we need you to wire us $200,000 like tomorrow morning. We're like, hey, no, we weren't going to do that. We're doing it this other way. And they were like, no, well, we can't do that. And so basically, without like rambling too much, they just said they could do something. And then at the very end, they would switch up. And we had a couple companies do that. And we're like, what the heck is going on? These people are just playing us. I had an attorney try to extort $2,000 out of me a couple weeks ago by telling me stuff that just wasn't true. So like, if you people listening to this are looking for your own land, like you can either buy it from someone listed online or a land investor. But if you ever go do it to yourself, like don't listen to somebody just because they're in a position of like power or authority, because they definitely will abuse that. And I've noticed that firsthand. If you don't know what you're talking about, like if you're going into a deal and you don't know about floodplains and, you don't know if like the property is kind of like suitable for what you want to do, like don't just listen to the person trying to sell it to you. Like do your own research, talk to the neighbors, just like talk to other people in the area that are doing the kind of stuff that you want to do, whether it's homestead, farming, vacation rentals, stuff like that. Just like talk to the people who are actually doing it, not the professionals, the people with the degrees and the people who just like move stuff around on paper because they don't know. And some of them, not all of them, will try to take advantage of you if you let them. And I have had that happen where
Yeah,
I knew
totally. I mean, I think there's 2 really good points there with your experience. One is, yeah, just like you mentioned, just talking to other people that are actually doing it, especially when it comes to that, like buying a property, like floodplains, like you mentioned, that's a big one. Water in general, like having water on the land and stuff like that. Like knowing who to talk to, we go over some of that in our program. And I always really recommend people like get an opinion from someone who knows land, like get a permaculture designer or someone on site who's experienced to like walk the property and like check it out. And then the other thing is actually the volume of people that you want to talk to. Like you mentioned, going to 5 attorneys. Like you don't just go to one and then accept what they say. No, you go to 5, you go to 10, you go to however many you need to get separate opinions from people. And that's super important. I think people often don't put in enough effort and they just think, okay, well, I went to 3 people and they all said the same thing. And then they just give up. But that's just not enough volume. You just need to keep pushing and put more and more stuff in, reach out to more people. It's really not that hard. You just like send a couple emails, make some more phone calls. Like I don't know, it's really not that difficult.
Absolutely. I mean, like if I listen to the first person who I asked a question as far as like, hey, is it possible to do this, this type of transaction or this type of business? They'd be like, no, you can't do that. Like we don't do that type of stuff. I would be like, oh, damn, I guess it doesn't work. I'm going to go work at Walmart. Like what? Like,
yeah. And like you said, the confusion and stuff, like there's a reason not everybody does it because they get hit with that little bit of confusion where it's their first time doing it. And then all of a sudden they just give up and they think it's not possible. But if you work through that confusion and you talk to people who know what they're doing, once you've done it, then it's all easy. Then it's all good to go from there. But yeah, I'm curious how did you find the people to go in on the projects with you when you were starting, or even now? Like, yeah, how do you go about finding people to help partner with on the money side?
Yeah, so there's people out there there's different steps to it. When you're first getting started, you use the deal funders, right? Like there's companies out there like I think Partial Funders is one of them. And there's a few other people that like, they're just like, oh, it's this company LLC or this company incorporated. I'll talk to other land investors that are doing the same thing. Like, hey, who do you use? I'll network. Sometimes we'll get in like these little, not Facebook groups, but you just kind of like know based off of being in the whole like atmosphere. They're like, oh, this is who I use. Oh, I use John. Oh, I use Sherry. Talk to her. They did a great deal for me. So I'll talk to kind of other people in the industry, and that's how I got started with these specific deal funders.
And where do you
But once you
find like where do you go to, like, are you on like social media and stuff, like looking for these other land investors?
Yeah, you can look on like Instagram's got some. There was a like a Discord group that I'm in. I'd have to figure out there's this guy named Subner Healy, and that's like the guy that I was talking to that was sending the excuse me, he had the property for sale. And then I saw his thing on Instagram, and I was like, okay, that's like pretty cool. He was in California, and I think he moved to just Nevada. But I'm meeting up with him later today and some other folks, so it should be pretty cool. Just kind of we're doing some deals together and working together and stuff like that. So that's like a really good person to talk to, and he's growing. I talked to him before he started, I guess, creating all the groups. He did some trial runs with like some one-on-one with guys, and was like, hey, this works. I want to make this bigger. And I talked to him. I was like the very first person. He was like, yeah, it's coming out in August. I was like, I'll send you the money right now. Like, show me how to do this type of thing. So definitely having someone who knows how to do this kind of stuff. And then you either just like pay them or you work for them or whatever you want to do. I'd rather just pay somebody since I have the money to do that. I don't want to stop a landscaping company to go like intern for somebody. So that's how I found him, was just because he was selling a property in an area that I liked. And yeah, from there,
I mean, that's pretty epic to think about, like going from like finding, like basically calling a real estate agent just to get information and talk and network and, you know, just gather research. And then that going into opening up a whole network of potential investors is pretty cool to think about.
Dude, I will tell you, and I'm so passionate about this because I know it works. And throughout my life, like I'm only 22, but I've looked back on the little things that I've done that have opened up huge doors for me. And it's always the small stuff. It's never like, oh, I'm going to go try to do this for, 5 years. And it opened up. It was just like one day I was trying to market my real estate business when I was doing houses, and I was getting my business cards and I was putting them in the credit card slots at the gas pumps. So whoever needed to get gas had to pull my card out.
Oh, I love that.
And I did that, and I talked to the guy that was in charge of the gas station. And I said, hey, I don't want to keep, like clogging up your pumps. And I just put a stack of cards like over by the card reader inside. And he was like, oh, yes, buddy, that sounds good. Okay, just buy some fruit from me. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that sounds good, man. Anyways, I think it only lasted there for like a couple months, and then it either ran out or he decided that I need to like, go buy some more fruit to, keep it up there. And there was this call I got one time. I was in my driveway, just like walking around barefoot, end of the night. I think I was on like a business call. Ended that. I get a call. It's like, hey, my name's Josh. I was at the gas station and I saw that you have like this coal buys houses thing. Like, you look really young. Like, what are you doing? And we got talking, and he ended up being the guy in charge of a local networking group. Not like the weird ones, because we have some of them where it's like BNI and it gets like weird high pressure. Everyone's like really fake and it's forced. Like, oh, you need to do this many referrals per week. Now, this was like just a local group of like down to earth people who were like, hey, we're just making money. We're local. If you want to meet up for happy hour, like get to know everybody, like invite your friends, invite your wife, like et cetera, et cetera. And this one business card that he took opened up like, I don't even know how much work, because his friend ended up referring me a client, and that was my first wholesaling real estate deal, which was a house. I spent all this money door knocking, buying software and data, and talking to pre-foreclosures and going downtown to the probate records and like going through people's like death records so I can see who like the property transferred to, and then to call them. Like, that's hard shit, like people like people in my family are dying, and it's just like it's a weird like emotional kind of like thing having to do that. But it's like, hey, like if you like have a problem, I can come up with a solution. Like, let's work together. Not going to be like some big corporation who's like trying to do all this crazy stuff. Like, I'm just a person. Let's like figure something out. So I was getting creative with all that, and it didn't really work for me. Other people it did. But this guy Josh that I met referred me to a banker, and the guy at the bank said, hey, I got a client that wants to sell his rental properties. He's got tenants in there. The houses are a mess. He doesn't want to list them. So I ended up wholesaling that to actually one of his friends. He just never told his friend. That guy was actually the head of the local real estate meetup. So he knew everybody. He knew hundreds of people. And he could have been like, hey, I have these houses for sale. But I think he was embarrassed about it because they were just like slumlord status. So then I talked to his friend. I was like, hey, we got these properties. I wholesale them. Anyways, we walked through them. It was crazy. So that, that made me like 15 grand from that one deal. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. That'll cover all the money I've spent this last year trying to just market myself and knock on doors and spend it on software and cold calling and skip tracing and all that stuff, which is just finding people's phone numbers. But then this guy, after that, when I went into landscaping, he ended up referring me to like all of his clients, all of his friends. It probably led to like $100,000 in work just in landscaping, just from that one business card that I left at a gas station. And he probably introduced me to 100 people or more that like I've had solid conversations with. So that's what I'm saying. Like these little things that you do, even if it's just like one little thing per day, you never know that could completely change your life. And that's what that did. I'd put a business card in a gas pump and he found it. And all of a sudden now I have this whole new world of people. And, it got me better at public speaking in front of people when I was like 18 years old and like working at a company, just like turning wrenches. I wasn't used to like talking to people like that. So yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this so far. We don't actually do advertisements on our podcast to keep it clean for you, but we did make a video for you that shows you how we started out broke and managed to buy 160 acres and build our off-grid sanctuary, and how we made $30K a month with it. It's completely free if you want it. Find the link in the description or find us on social to go get it. If you think we're a good fit, we would love to help you achieve your goals for land and freedom and for bringing your gifts to the world.
Wow. So now that you're acquiring a land and you're selling it, what do you have plans to buy a lot for yourself?
Yes.
And what do you want to do with that?
That's the part I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'm looking to do. Originally, I was looking at going into the mountains out east in the Appalachian Mountains and just getting, 10 or 20 acres and having a personal family farm type of thing there. I don't have a family, but future, it's the idea of it. It's getting it all set up. And I was like, all right, this is cool. But I got to the point on a couple of deals where I made offers and just crazy stuff would happen. And I have a list on my phone where it was, maybe there was a power plant nearby and there was 6 million tons of toxic waste, or they logged the property all around it and there was a hunting club where they used dogs 4 months straight from sun up to sundown, and there's 450 guys in pickup trucks drinking moonshine and like running around with barking dogs around the property. I was like, oh, well, that's not good. The next property I made an offer on, both neighbors were child molesters. Like it just like there's this huge list. Yeah, like it was talk to the neighbors. Definitely talk to the neighbors. That's, if anything, if you're ever looking for land, whether it's you're buying land from me, you're buying land on the market, the real estate agent is going to hype it up. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then all of a sudden the neighbor tells you that there was a double murder and there's still blood on the floor. And like, that was another property I saw. And they're like, oh, it's the haunted house. So like, I won't get into all the, just because I could go down so long. I put on my Instagram one day, I'm like, these are all the reasons I didn't buy land. And it was just like, most people that are buying stuff, even like properties that I'll sell, people don't ask these questions. And I think I just have a very specific vision for what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a paradise. I want to create like a little slice of heaven on earth. And I don't want to have to deal with crappy neighbors. I don't want to have to deal with the land flooding. I don't want to, I want to actually like eat the food from this land. So I don't want there to be 6 million tons of toxic waste nearby. Most people just in general are kind of just like wishy-washy about life. So if they do want to buy it, like, oh, I just get it, squirrel hunt on it, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, I'm like so specific on what I want. I don't know exactly what that is, but there's like some feeling and some vision in my head that I just haven't quite realized in real life. So that's why I went out to meet you.
I think that's good though. So basically you're still looking for the right lot.
Right. Yeah. If I do ever go out west to like Idaho, Montana, the land's so expensive there, I would have to do it through my business. Like I would have to do a subdivision, make some money and use that money to buy my land, or I can do it kind of like what you guys are and get, 50 acres or so and turn it into like a glamping hip camp thing and then just live on a little part of it. And that's what I realized after talking to you guys, is something that I could do. I don't need to get completely set on, oh, I own this. It's 100% mine. Because as you know, like no matter what happens through life, like you said, they could build a pipeline through the land and take it. Eminent domain, it could burn down in a forest fire. If you don't pay your taxes, they're going to take it anyways. So then I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't be like so attached to like owning this land just for me. And that was like a big takeaway I got from you, is because people have like this false sense of security. You're right. So maybe I will go out and get some more expensive land, figure out how to make it cash flow, and then live out there. like that was a big reason that I went out to meet you guys. And just because like seeing people in real life is it completely changes it. If you told me that over the phone, like, okay, no, 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 I'm just gonna keep on living my life in Virginia. But actually going out there was really just eye-opening, inspiring, and it got me excited to do something bigger because I felt like if I stayed in Virginia and bought that 10 acres, it would be nice and I could grow food there and it would be safe and secure and stable and nothing crazy going on. But I was like, is there more out there? I feel like there is. So I'm trying to figure out what that is. And so I'm looking for some land to move there. I kind of sift through the leads that I have to see if I would ever live in these areas. But like everyone's different. Right? I could sell some land in the desert and I'd be like, man, this is like so ugly. I would never want to live here. And someone calls like, I'm so happy. This is the best land ever. Like it's 100%. It's just so great here. I'm so like, that's why I don't put myself in other people's shoes. As far as like, oh, is that good or bad land? I'm like, it's not mine. Like I wouldn't want to live here, but you might like it. So like, just like go there and take your shoes off and tell me how you feel type of thing.
Yeah.
So yes, I am looking for land myself. I just don't know exactly where yet. I'm at that point where I'm just a little bit, I need some clarity and I need something. I just need some clarity. I need to go experience some more and figure it out. So I don't do something that I regret and buy in an area that I really don't want
I think
to.
you're taking the perfect approach. I mean, right now, like you just came up for the weekend for the tour, and right now you're going back through and you're hitting all these other states. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of them are places you're kind of scouting to see if you would even like to live there. And I definitely recommend that. I feel like there's nothing beats that. Like you can look at stuff on a map, but there's just nothing like driving through it and just actually seeing it and experiencing some of the local towns and things like that. And also just waiting, like not rushing into it. Like we have clients, I have a lot of clients that have waited, like one in particular comes to mind, who looked at every property in like Pennsylvania for a year and a half. So 18 months was just like, it felt like forever for him at the time, right? But every single person who waits to find land that they really feel good about is always so much happier. Like they're so happy when they look back and they're like, I waited and it's worth it. This land is 100 times better than any land that I've looked at in the last, X amount of time. So I think that you're definitely on the right track. So
It just,
do you think it'll be easier? Do you think that it seems like you have a bit of a network now to be able to go, and if you wanted help to like buy a property, like how do you feel about that with like the network that you've established?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not big yet with like private money. I know some people that I'm sure would do it, but I haven't had those conversations. So kind of like what I was saying before is when you first get into the business that I'm in, you use the land investors, which is your second set of eyes. So worst case scenario, they make sure they're not buying a bad deal. So worst case scenario, like I'm off the hook, right? If the property doesn't sell, they know so certainly that it's a good property that they're like, hey, like we're good to go. So they're a little bit more conservative on the numbers and things like that. So you might have to buy a little bit lower in order to use like that guaranteed like deal funder type of person. Once you get more confident in this business and you know your own numbers and you can without a doubt deal with someone else's money, that's when you get into private money. You're like, hey, Jamie, I know that lots in this part of British Columbia, Rock Creek, British Columbia, are going for this much per acre. This is how much we're going to resell it for. This is the demand. This is the sell through rate, et cetera, et cetera. Like this is going to be a good one. Trust me. And I'll, take your money and then I'll go do the deal type of thing. But I'm not there yet. So eventually I will be doing like stuff like that in my deals. Probably in the next, within the next year, I'm going to be at that level where I can streamline it. And I've worked in so many markets where I know the numbers like by heart. Now I know them. I have to know them. But I still like to have that kind of person where we can walk alongside each other instead of it just being me and me being like the big boss who's directing it all. Like it's my company and they have their separate company. I just like that I can be like, hey, Nick, what do you think about this? And like, nah, Cole, like we're good. Or, hey, let's get a little bit lower and then we'll be fine. But I'm not at the point yet where I can go out and meet somebody and take their money and then go flip it and give them a return. I know people in the business that do that all the time. I'm just like, I'm still learning of getting to that point. So when the time comes, I will be able to find some people for that. But right now, I'm just liking what I'm doing. I'm focusing more on sales and marketing and getting that process streamlined first.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you've got the network to pitch. Like even if you wanted to do like a glamping thing or farming or anything like that, where you're just like, hey, like here's my vision. We're not actually going to sell this property. We can in a worst case scenario, but like, let's make something like cash flow. it's not the conventional deals that a lot of the people are doing that you're working with, but like there's still a network there for people that you could go pitch if you wanted to, kind of thing. And also even some of your skills, like I think about the Texas deal that you did and like doing a subdivision like that. That's epic. That's such an epic way. Like you could do one subdivision and make enough money on the other parcels that you leave yourself with one and you walk away and you just go into that deal and you basically get for some work and effort, you get a free parcel essentially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what I might do out in Idaho, Montana. That's why when I was going to meet you guys, it's like, all right, let me fly into Washington, explore Idaho and Montana like along the way. And that's what I did. And during that trip, the first night I was there, I probably talked with people for 6 hours. Like I've been going into these places, talking to people. Like there's a guy on YouTube. He's like, his business is like called Talk to People. It's a cold calling like course or something like that. But it is true. It's like you need to talk to people. Like my dad told me when I was like 8 years old, he was like, oh, like you want this? Like you want a new game for your DS? Like you want a game? Like go knock on doors. Like those people have your money. Help them out. Provide a service. Do something that's worth something so you can get what you want. Talk to people. So I'm a little kid walking around like, hey, like, can I pick up your sticks? I will. So I was just picking up sticks at people's houses. So like, just talk to people. I'm going to Idaho and Montana, and I'm talking to. The first night I was there, I met people at gas stations, not like the crazy people, but like, they're just getting gas. I'm like, hey, how do you like it here? And like, people are so willing to help you if you just ask them a question. I met like an old nomadic guy who like came here on a bus and he's working on a farm, and we had breakfast together. And he was just telling me about life and his land out in New Hampshire and how he left his goats there. And just like, it was a pretty insightful fella. But I'm also asking people, hey, what's the geography like? I went to this place called North 40 in Idaho, and it's like a sporting goods store. And I asked this guy, I'm like, hey, I'm traveling through here. I want to buy some land. Like, can you tell me about like, what's the difference between North Idaho and Central? Like, what's the climate like? Is there farms out there? Is there hiking? Like, what's it like? And within a couple minutes, this guy has a freaking projector screen on the side of the building on the inside. And he put up a map of the state. He's like, all right, up here, this is where we got the mountain lions, dude. Or no, excuse me, grizzly bear. That's what it was. He's like, this is where we got the grizzly bears. So get your bear spray up there for sure. You come over this way is the agricultural belt. So this is where everyone is growing wheat. If you go around here, this is when we have this. This is where the potatoes are. If you're looking for this type of land, you should go up here. So like, this guy lives here, and he like lives and breathes fishing and outdoors. And all I had to do was just like introduce myself. I'm like, hey, this is kind of my vision. This is what I want to do. And he's like, oh, dude, check this out. And he's got a 30-foot map on the wall, and he's helping me out. And like everyone in the store is looking at it. I'm like, what about over here? I want to check that out. He's like, oh, well, it's really dry on that side. As soon as you cross that mountain on the map, you're going to gain 3,000 foot in elevation, and it's going to be really dry on the Montana side. So maybe if you're trying to do stuff, you might want to stay away. And that's something that you can't tell from just looking at a map. You don't know that it goes up 3,000 and then loses all its rain. So just talking to people is so big. I mean, I talked to him. I've talked to so many people, man. This whole trip, I like wrote it down on my phone. I've just been like shaking people's hands and meeting them and just telling me, or just like, and they tell me their story and I tell them mine, and they kind of lead me in the right direction, and it's helped out so far. So like, it's such a big thing. Like, even if you're not super like extroverted, just, hey, I'm Cole. You don't even have to do that, because that's like more formal. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, you like it here? Oh yeah, I like it here. I'm like, hey, I just came in from Virginia. I'm exploring the area. I just met some guys out. They've got a farm up in Canada, and they're just doing some glamping stuff. It's really cool. Just got back from doing that, and I just met a bunch of cool guys. And I was just thinking about doing that over here, like et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. It's like I'm rambling at this point, but it's just like, just do it. Listen to like whatever feels right. Like, just talk to a person, and it's going to make your life better, and you might make their life better. You never know how you can work together.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge, and I do think for some people it's easier than others. Like when I started like my first thing, like even landscaping, man. When I started my landscaping company in high school, I was so scared to talk to anyone. I just didn't want to. I was like, it just wasn't something. I've always been a pretty like introverted person, so getting on a phone call with someone was like scary to me. Like, it was super uncomfortable. But it's just one of those things where like you learn and you grow, and people are always so scared of being uncomfortable. But if you want to do something like this, like think about all the uncomfortable things that, like, let's say someone's trying to get land and they think it's uncomfortable to go out and talk to somebody. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you're actually on your land? and you have everything ready to go, there's still going to be tons of uncomfortable scenarios. Like your cow's giving birth and it's coming out wrong. What do? You're going to have to call somebody and figure it out. You're going to be uncomfortable. Like there's going to be like all sorts of like weird little things that come up that are going to be uncomfortable, and that's life. So like get used to it, learn how to have fun with it, and just learn and grow and adapt. And I think those are all awesome points. So what made you like, is there any like moment in your life that you kind of realized that this is what you wanted to do, like this lifestyle of just living off the land and getting back to it?
Yeah, probably 2019, 2020, everything was getting pretty wild, and I was like, everything's poisoned. Before that, I like being outside. I knew I wanted to go hiking, but I wasn't like talking about canning food or making like fresh beef jerky. I was like, oh, I just want to live out. It'd be cool to live near the mountains. But after I started seeing like the world get so crazy, I was like, wow, like it's pretty wild out there. And like without getting into like too deep into it, I mean, you look around and they're poisoning the air, they're poisoning the water, the food. And if you think that's crazy, then you might just be living your own type of life. Like if you're at this point in the world and you're not questioning the powers that shouldn't be around us, and you're not wondering if these people have your health in like in their best interest, then I don't know, it might be a rude awakening at that point, because all the people that I know are just like, man, it's wild, we've got to plant some blueberries, let's put some potatoes in the ground, man, we need to find some land and get some cattle on there. So yeah, once I started seeing all the people running into the grocery stores and like taking all the bottled water and toilet paper, it's like, yeah, this isn't it. I read a book about a guy who like went through, it was like some crazy war, and like it was somewhere in like maybe Eastern Europe, I'm not exactly sure, but he went through this crazy stuff, and it was his account of like just like people like eating dogs and just like all sorts of nasty stuff. It was like you read the book and you're gonna get depressed. You're like, man, this is horrible. This guy's talking about like the depths of his life. He's like hiding under dead bodies because everyone's starving, like that type of stuff. Like that's a fear thing. Like I don't want people to be fearful, and I do my best not to. But what I did get out of that book was the people who lived on the farms were fine. The only people struggling were the people who lived in the cities that didn't have any resources, that didn't have any land, that were fighting over the scraps and like the supply things that came in, like the helicopters. So like while I didn't finish the book because it just like took me to like a really dark place, when I did skip ahead and look at it, the people who were fine were like, oh, we just swam in the pond and showered, we ate some peaches, and our cows were chill. So
dude, I love that. I mean, I'm the same way. Everything you said just like is, I relate with and believe fully. I think for some people it takes a little bit of a rude awakening, like you said. Like it takes something like personal to wake them up. For my brother, for example, for Shelby, he had crazy mental health issues, which were caused by a lot of the like dietary and lifestyle related stuff. And then he realized after he had to like change his diet and lifestyle, he realized, okay, like this is how messed up everything is. Like I can't eat almost anything at a grocery store. I need to go and actually get real food from somewhere. And then you start, it just kind of opens a Pandora's box. It's like, okay, our food systems are kind of corrupt and messed up. And then you start to realize, oh, so is our healthcare, and so is the financial systems, and so is our education systems, and like so on and so forth. And it definitely just opened up that Pandora's box. And I've had a bunch of health related stuff where it just hits you hard, and it forces you to open your eyes and see it, because you try everything the conventional way. You go to your doctor and the doctor can't help, and you realize, oh shit, I need to go figure this out on my own. And there's other weird alternative things, or things I thought were weird before that now I think are normal. It's pretty funny how backwards a lot of that shit can be.
yeah, it's insane. I'm sure the people who are listening to this are like well aware of everything that's going on, and that's why my company's Homestead Scout, scouting for the homesteads, getting the inventory. Most of my buyers are like, that's what sets me apart. Like if you talk to a real estate agent, there might be some land specific people, and they might be really good people. The non-land specific people are usually like kind of confused. They don't know like the first thing about how land works. They're like, oh, just give me the address. And like they don't even know that we have parcel numbers, because there's no address for raw land. Like if your real estate agent doesn't know that, they're probably not very well versed in it. But even more than just like a land specific real estate agent, like I'm not an agent. Like we actually buy them and then just list them. So people will call me and they're like, hey man, like I'm just looking for this property, and they think that I don't know anything about it. And then he's like, then all of a sudden we get talking about hydroelectric, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to put a cell booster up on a 20-foot pole, and we're going to put a Starlink over here, and we're going to grade the land this way, and put an underground greenhouse so we can grow pineapples in the wintertime in Tennessee, and all this kind of cool stuff. And we'll get talking about like the stuff that I'm interested in, they're interested in. So that's what I guess is different about the conversations I have with people buying land, because like I'm in it. I'm personally looking for land myself. I'm talking with people about land all day long and learning about the zoning and the regulations, and if it's if you just the ins and outs of it all, because I'm actually looking at the off-grid lifestyle instead of just someone who's going to do a vacation rental out near a lake somewhere, which is fine too. It's just I'm kind of it's a nicer conversation with someone who is also looking to live a similar life. Oh, well, we have some trees. And even in the listing, I'm like, hey, this is fully wooded, but thin out some trees, get some seed in there, create some silvopasture. And they're like, oh, I never thought about that. That's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, dude, like your pigs are going to eat the acorns type stuff from the oak trees. So like, yeah, that's pretty neat. And one thing I will say with kind of what we were talking about before is like, I've noticed that I was always trying to figure out what's different about me. Like I see all these other people that are good at things like, wow, like you two make it look so easy with your business. And I know it's not, because you're busting your ass all the time, but you make it look easy, maybe because it's like you're good at it, you put in the work, and now it's like kind of not streamlined, but like you're comfortable doing that process, and you have people backing you saying, you just know you're the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you provide is good. Like it works.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I guess like I think everybody's different. Like we try really hard, and we're always trying to like make it better and like try and like I think everybody, I think for Shelby and I, just the way we were raised, nothing's ever really good enough. And like we have to consciously bring ourselves to like in almost a place of meditation to like feel that in our lives and stable with what we're doing and things like that. But when it comes to like what we're offering to people and like how we're building our land out and stuff like that, yeah, like we definitely have like high standards, and it's always like we question that. We're always like, hey, like is this good enough? Can we put more? Can we give people more value and information? Which I think is good in a way, because it makes us continually build that up. But yeah, it's definitely, we don't try to make it look easy, I guess. We prefer to try to tell it like it is, and it's not always easy. It's actually hard. So yeah, for anybody listening, yeah, it's not easy.
No. Well, what I was saying based off of that is like some people that I met in business have a mindset of like the people that I've kind of made the connection that the people that are like really successful without, everyone does it with somebody, but the people that I've met that have just like took off and done stuff to a crazy level, and they've got a $20 million landscaping company, stuff like that, and say they're young, they have a mindset of like they're not really fearful. They don't need another person's kind of assurance to do something. They just do it anyways. But for me, I've been more kind of a cautious business owner, right? That's why I don't have a bunch of employees right now and take risks, and I haven't gone out and gotten loans. So for the people out here listening who aren't naturally inclined to go out and take huge risks because they're unsure and they want a better foundation before they build up, what I personally did in all the different businesses in my life has been, like I was saying, collaboration over competition. Even when I was landscaping and I didn't know how to like trim a bush, which sounds crazy because now it's like you're just going to go out there, you just trim it, and then if it looks weird, then you just trim it again and you make it round. So that would be me with the confidence. But when I first started out and I was working at a company where everyone was telling me like, you suck, like this, you didn't do it right, you screwed it up. Then I got to a point where like in my heart I was like, damn, maybe I am like screwing everything up. Like, and I was kind of like that hit me, and it kind of screwed me up for a while. I was like, man, like I don't really have a whole lot of confidence in what I'm doing because I haven't done anything. Like I haven't proved myself. I haven't gone out and done a great job and then had someone hype me up. Like, no, that's so sweet. I'm like, it's my self-confidence wasn't there. So the people who don't have that, if you're still working on building that, work alongside someone who does know what they're doing. So I literally had my first landscaping job that was like over $1,000. It was $1,200. And I called a guy in that I had another landscaping company. I was like, hey, I'll split this with you 50-50 if you trim the bushes and I watch you. And that's what we did. And all of a sudden I did a job that at the time I was scared to do, which sounds kind of silly, but I was like, it was like one of my first self-employed, like bigger projects. Like I was like, someone's going to give me $1,000. Like I'm making $100 a day at an HVAC company working out of state. So $1,000 was like crazy to me. So I was like, hey, I'll give you 500. You show me how to trim the bushes. And then all of a sudden I know how to trim the bushes. And then next time, oh, now we know how to trim the trees. Now we know how to lay some pavers on the walkway. Oh, now we're going to do some landscape lighting. But it's all, I haven't gone out and done it all by myself and figured it out. And then just figured it out along the way. I mean, I have, but most of the time I like to go alongside people who know what they're doing. Like the 80-acre deal in Texas, I could figure it out, but it's going to be messy. I'm going to screw some stuff up. And if I don't know that it's possible in my mind because I haven't done it before, then when the first attorney tells me no, I'm going to be like, oh, well, I guess you can't do it. I'm going to go look for something else to do. I'm going to go do a different deal. But what I did is I called the guy from one of the Discord groups I'm in where we're just like talking about some land. And I was like, hey, I have a lead right now. It's 11:30 p.m. It's really hot. I don't know what to do with it. I've never done an 80-acre deal. Like, this is huge. I was marketing for small stuff, and this is a big one. Like, what do I do? So I called this guy's name is Mayor, and we got on the phone, and we're doing the deal together as a joint venture. So I could have done it myself and figured it out and made the mistakes, but now that there were so many points in that deal where I was like, dude, like, they're telling me it's not possible. He's like, no, we'll find someone else. We'll work through that. And he has done it so many times that he, without a doubt, knows that it is possible. So if you're so new in your business or whatever your job, that like probably mostly business, and you're just unsure and uncertain and you need like some more guidance, if you're not going to work for somebody, work alongside somebody, because that's what's going to give you the boost. When I was wholesaling houses, I was so afraid. Like right now, I can talk to people, right? Because I've made money, I've helped people. Like I just know that like person. But when I first started out and I have just people yelling at me on the phone from cold calling them and they're like, you're a piece of shit, stop calling me, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, damn, like I need to figure something out. So I was scared to go and say, hey, knock on the door. Hey, I just bought the house next door. We're renovating it. Do you want to sell yours? Because I didn't buy it. So I was like, how can I say that? And I didn't want to be just a random person in the neighborhood. Hey, do you want to sell your house? So I literally would find a guy renovating a house and say, hey, I'm going to go look for a house in this neighborhood. Can I call you my business partner? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. So when I find this house, I want
Oh, is that what they like recommend doing? Like, is that what other people do?
Some people might. I just wanted someone to talk to. Like when it's only you and you're starting a company and you don't have any proof of concept and you're around knocking on doors for a deal that you've never done before, you're kind of confused out there. And I wanted like some more stability and some more structure. And I wanted to make it seem like I had done it. And I wanted, in case a hard question came up, I wanted someone who I could ask. So I found a guy who was renovating a house and I was like, hey, I want to sell you this house when I find it. So I'm going to go find some deals for you. Do you want to work together? He's like, yeah, let's work together. So I'm like, hey, knock, knock. Hey, my name's Cole. My business partner and I, we're renovating the house on 123 Main Street. I was just wondering if you might want to sell yours too. And then all of a sudden I have confidence with it. It's not, oh, I'm just Cole who just quit his job and now I'm walking around some random neighborhood asking you a question. Now it's, hey, I'm Cole. The business, like I have a construction company. I'm working with this construction company. I'm not saying I'm the owner and I own all the equipment. I'm just saying I'm working with them, right? We're going to do a deal together and I'm going to sell them this property and we're going to exchange some money. So in business, we're partners. So that's what I did, like little stuff like that. I did that for my first real estate.
I really like that. That's like, yeah, because their credibility rubs off on you and then it makes you feel backed in what you're doing. And we do a lot of that. Like I'm really big on like when I review people's plans and stuff, I'm really big on people's teams. That's one of the major points that I always look at is like helping people build their team out. Because you don't need to know everything. Everybody thinks they need to kind of know everything. You don't need to know everything. Like we've, like a lot of this conversation has pointed out, you just need to find the people that you can partner with that have strengths in areas that you might have a weakness and or knowledge in areas that you haven't experienced yet. And then you build that whole team out and you're good to go. And a lot of the time that team doesn't even need to be somebody who's like it's for us, it's never been someone who's just straight up like hired. It's like when we started out, it's not like we're going around hiring people and paying for people to be on our team. No, we're literally just reaching out to like consultants and people, like maybe it's a construction company nearby in the area or like whatever it is that we need help with. And we just ask them like, hey, do you want to like be an advisor kind of thing? Because you just need someone to call a lot of the time. You just need to know who you can call, who actually gives a shit and has your back and is going to help you through something and work together through it. And we hear that feedback a lot, actually, just around like partnering with like learning from people and like partnering with someone who knows what they're doing kind of thing. And a lot of it is just around confidence, like you mentioned. Like it's I don't think it's that hard. It really just takes the confidence for somebody to yeah, I don't know, to actually go do it. And we get that feedback a lot from people like going through the course and stuff, and that's one of the major points is they feel more confident in moving forward, which is huge, because if you don't, then you're never going to do it. So yeah, it's kind of, and even on the note on like things being hard, I just think everything's hard. Like you could sit at home and watch Netflix all day and get depressed, and that's fucking hard. That sucks too. So like choose your hard. Do you want to do that, or do you want to like slowly progress and learn new things and get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but then live an epic life? Probably the latter.
Absolutely. Like, and that's why your course is good, because let's say someone is thinking about joining, they're like, hey, I want to do this vacation rental thing. I want to do glamping. If they don't know anyone who's doing that, and they don't have, maybe they're younger or newer in business, maybe they're 50 years old, but they've never run a business before, they're going to probably sound like an idiot, just like I did when I first started. Like when they're talking to people, they're not going to know what questions to ask. But if they can go in there and say, hey, I've got a buddy who's doing this, right? If they're like, hey, I don't know, let's say they're talking to a mortgage person, or they're trying to get a loan from someone, they need a business plan, or someone's asking them a question about how they're going to do that, and they kind of get flustered. If I was them, I would just always refer to back like, hey, I'm not sure. I can talk to my guy, Jamie. He's been doing this. He's kind of coaching me through this whole business thing. So, if I can't answer it for you, I'm going to go talk to him. And then all of a sudden you're not like this, like lone duck out in the middle of the pond drowning. It's like, you can always reference back to you guys or the people in the group or someone that you met through the group or in the Telegram page or on the Facebook page. It's just like, I'm a huge proponent of just having people around you and just like forming a little bit of a team, even if you're not like a business partner, like where you're splitting all the profits, even if you're just like another person doing the same business, that you can kind of go back and forth and help each other. It's like lifting each other up instead of bringing each other down. And I've done that like countless times where I'm just doing something and I reference back to someone that I know, and it gives me so much more confidence knowing that I can just be like, oh yeah, I can get back to you on that, and then go talk to someone like you. But like, oh well, how do I do this, this, and this? And then all of a sudden I go back. It just works well. It's magic. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So after going through the course and coming up for the land tour, which is awesome, thank you for you driving all the way up to come up for that. I'm curious just to, what are your thoughts on our program and what we're doing, and has it been helpful for you, and if there's any big takeaways that you've had from it?
Yeah. So like the big takeaway, like if not, the big thing I noticed was if you're not a land investor and you're not a land business person, all the little things that you talk about are what really makes it. Like just the one thing alone, like your solar system, when you're like, hey, we spent all this time and money doing the solar system, and now this is like, you just made the mistakes for everybody else. Like we're still going to make mistakes and have our own little things, but you made the big ones already doing it on your 160 acres. So you screwing up and then having to learn and then go to a different solar system, or do a different type of tiny house or hire a different type of permaculture expert. Us just being just that alone, like let's say I was thinking, because I was thinking about buying a yurt, and they're like 30 grand. And now I'm in your course and you're like, oh, we do bell tents. Well, okay, that saved me $25,000, just that information alone. And you can say, oh, well, I would have figured that out on my own. Well, wouldn't you? Because I've never heard of a bell tent, right? Maybe I would have gone out and done it with $30,000 yurts, and my business plan was based off of $30,000 yurts, and my cash flow didn't hit for another 2 years or something. So like that's the type of stuff that just like getting in your ecosystem, getting around people who are doing it is like the number one thing. Because if you go in free Facebook groups where people are just kicking tires, there's all sorts of people with mindset issues who are just like, it's just like not great. So I think being a part of like a serious group of people who want to change their lives and are doing this for a living, or at least on the side, they want to make it a lifestyle. That's just the big thing, is just being around the people. And then of course the actual actionable knowledge, where it's like, hey, bell tent, not your, hey, this solar system, and it's 7 kilowatts or whatever instead of 2. That's going to save you money. All those little things. It's like that alone is make it for me, because that's information you get from knowing people. It's not usually going to be on Google. So that's good. I like where you're talking about if you are going to be talking about sourcing land, that's always a good time. Like I'm doing direct mail. But yeah, just I know I'm saying the same thing in a row. This is actually my first podcast, so that's why I don't have very clear thoughts. I'm just kind of talking.
Oh no, dude, that's what
Just
it's all about. No, it's been great. That's super. It's just
yeah,
conversational. We're super easy with it. Yeah, it's that I love that. I like that. I like that takeaway. I think it's sometimes hard to like it's hard to communicate that to people sometimes. Where I'm just like, I just want what's best for people, and I don't give a shit if you buy my course or not, or come work with us or not. I just always say, like, I'll be on a call with someone and I'm like, look, I'm not a fucking sales guy. You either take it or you don't. And it's really like, if you don't work with us, please work with someone, because I just know that anyone who's been through it is going to help people through all of those mistakes. You know, like adding all those mistakes up, man, we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of mistakes, and it's actually astonishing to me that we've still made it and it's still working even despite making so many mistakes. So if we knew then what we knew now when we started, we would be doing so much better. So I just think that I think it gives people a head start.
heck yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if any takeaway from anything is just get around people doing the stuff you want to do. Don't try to do it by yourself. You can. I have, but my life has been so much better. Just even if you are talking to people in other states, right? Let's say you're in a service business and you don't want to call the landscaper that lives next door. Maybe talk to someone in North Carolina and you live in Virginia. But I mean, even then, I just talk to people. That's it. My life has gotten better the more people I talk to. Anytime I shake someone's hand at a gas station, we start talking about the geography of the area or the hiking trails or what business they're into. My life has gotten better. Their life has gotten better. You know, we've worked together sometimes. We've helped each other out. You know, we've kept in contact, and it's been fun. So that's my biggest thing is just talking to people. I love it. And that's why I
Yeah.
met you guys, like going out in real life and meeting like you and Shelby, and I guess it was like Carson and Luke and everyone else. It was like, this is so freaking cool. Like they're out here in the middle of nowhere, like playing volleyball, also working, but in between playing volleyball and getting, sweaty in the sun, go dip in the ice bath and then go, change some more people's lives. Like that's community is the biggest thing. And I think that's why there's a lot of like lone wolf people out there. And for a while, like I was just like kind of working on myself and just like running the business and not really hanging out with anybody. But like I did notice that kind of like the Christopher McCandless quote when he was out there alone and he went off the grid in Alaska and just was like, I need to get away from society. He was like, before he died, he wrote down, happiness is only real when shared. And that I really felt that in my heart one time when I was hiking. I was like 3 days alone. I was like, this is so nice. It's so pretty. But I'm like, who am I going to laugh with? Like, who am I going to like tell about this? Like, I don't know. Some people are really good with like the whole solitude and suffering thing and they learn a lot. You can reflect, which I think that has a place. But if you're going to go do something, like do it with some other people. And I'm not saying go out and get a business partner every single time. But like have someone to talk to about it, because that's what life is about. It's just like the relationships and the connections we make. And that's why, like, once again, why I came out there is because like I need like more good people in my life just in general that I can like talk to and maybe exchange some ideas, because it's the common person around you who like, if you're 25 years old and you work at a 7-Eleven and you're not trying to change your life and all you do is go home and drink and smoke and then complain about it, like that's a lot of people. And there's a lot of good people out there too. But I think the further I get into life makes me realize like how much of a little niche I'm in. Like all of a sudden now I'm a business owner. So, okay, well, maybe that's 10% of the people. All right, now I'm a business owner who is focused on the off-grid lifestyle or focused on traveling or this and that, like every little thing, like not to box people in, but it seems like there's not a whole lot of people that like have not everyone needs to be the same, but I just feel like I'm very specific in what I like and, the type of people that I want to keep around me. So, it's good meeting someone who has, like, you guys are the only like people like you. That didn't make sense. The business that you guys have is so specific that there's not another one like it. There's other people that might be doing, oh, we're gonna plant your fruit trees, et cetera, et cetera. But you guys are the live off the grid dream people. Like that's your vision. There's not another one of you guys right now. There might be people who like that idea or think about it. But when I was getting your ads for like a year, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden I was like, no, like there's no other people there. Like who else am I going to talk to about this stuff? So you definitely have like a a captive audience of people. At least people like me. Like, there's no other place you're going to get it unless you're just talking to people in real life. So I think you guys have done really well with that. And right now,
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And honestly, like, I don't know, man. I've had businesses. I've worked corporate, and this is the best thing that I've ever done. And I love it because of that fact, because of people like you, because it doesn't feel like work. It feels like even the tour day, man. It just feels like a bunch of like new friends, and we're all just getting together and chatting. And it's yeah, we have people that come back, like at the tour day that you were at. We've had people that came to workshops, and they came back just to like see how the progress is going. And they're just so funny. We're laughing about what happened last time. Like, I don't know, it just feels very communal, and that's such an important part of life and happiness. And I'm really enjoying it. So thank you for being a part of it.
absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Beautiful. All right, brother. Well, thank you. I appreciate this. This is awesome. Congrats on everything that you've done so far. And yeah, we're here to help however we can. And I'm looking forward to seeing the property that you find when it feels right for you.
Heck yeah, brother. Thank you. Yeah, I'll catch up with you next time. All right.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Good luck with your meetings today.
Thank you, sir. Peace out.
See ya.